The wagon wheels hadn't yet stopped groaning when the old woman's voice cracked like a whip. Etta Grace didn't move. A boot shoved her side. I set out. The cold hit first, wind threading through the torn seams of her shawl as she stumbled down into brittle pine needles. The trees stretched high, tall and unmoved, like jurors already convinced of her guilt. Etta's bare hand touched the frost-hardened earth. No words passed her lips. She stood. She faced them. The brother-in-law, Jed, couldn't meet her eyes. He just tossed the canteen down near her feet and turned. His jaw clenched like he was afraid it might open and spill out his conscience. Behind him, the old woman spat. "You were a waste when you married my son. Now you're just a mouth. No child. No use." She waved her hand toward the trees like she was brushing away smoke. "Let the woods decide what you're good for." The wagon turned. The reins snapped. Horses trotted. Wheels cracked against stone. And then nothing. Just wind and branches sighing. Just the weight of no return. Etta stood alone. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. Instead, she walked. Through underbrush and dying leaves, deeper into a silence that felt chosen. Her boots scuffed past old stumps, half-buried bones. A rusted trap snapped around empty air. She walked until the world forgot her name. At the base of a scorched pine, hollowed by lightning, its ribs blackened and brittle, she stopped. Etta knelt. Her fingers dug into damp earth. She carved a shallow pit with her hands and sat within it like a coffin waiting for dirt. She drew her shawl around her shoulders, closed her eyes, and listened to the beating of her own blood. That was all she had left. A heartbeat. Night fell like a curtain soaked in ink. Stars blinked through bare branches. Cold gnawed her toes. Something howled far off, mournful and long. She did not move. Not when the wind howled. Not when twigs snapped nearby. Not even when breath that wasn't hers steamed beside her cheek. She opened her eyes. Figures moved in the dark, small, thin shapes just beyond the firelight of the stars. No shoes. No sound. Just eyes, catching moonlight like lantern glass. Children. One stepped forward, holding something out. A cracked wooden bowl. Inside, soup. Huh. Smelling of garlic and rabbit. The child didn't speak. Just waited. Etta's fingers trembled as they reached for it. And in that moment, that single, quiet, impossible moment, the hollowing ended. And something else began. "Don't touch the wire," the tallest girl warned, pointing to a thread of copper strung tight between two trees. Fox teeth. Poison-tipped. Etta froze mid-step, her skirt brushing needles. The girl, freckles smeared with ash, didn't smile. She just slipped under the wire like a shadow and kept walking. Above them, tree houses clung to the trunks like nests. Rope ladders swayed. Bark-stained hands reached down to help lift a bucket filled with snared rabbits. Somewhere behind a thicket, a saw buzzed low and steady. Not for trees, but bone, maybe. Etta said nothing. She took it in. The smoke from cook fires curling through branches, sharpened sticks stacked like rifles in mud, traps rigged with bells and nails. Not children's play. A fortress. A boy, no older than 10, ran past her barefoot, dragging a broken railroad lantern filled with glowing coals. "They come at night sometimes," he muttered to no one, "but the smoke keeps the dogs away." He vanished into a burrow dug beneath a root. Another child handed Etta a rusted spoon and motioned to a stump beside the fire. Rabbit stew again. Watery. Burned at the bottom. But hot. They didn't ask who she was. Didn't ask why she'd been left. In this place, abandonment was an unspoken truth. She watched them work, swift, silent, scarred. Dozens of them. None older than 15. They moved like they'd been born in trees, raised by shadows. And still, they looked to her. By the third day, Etta had mended 6 torn shirts, boiled water clean, and taught one girl how to stitch a gash closed with a pine needle. She slept inside a hollowed log with a flint knife in her boot. No one asked her to stay. No one asked her to leave. It was the 4th night when Tolliver returned, dragging his leg, face bloodied, shirt torn to the ribs. He collapsed near the fire, eyes wide, lips trembling. "They found the trap line," he gasped. "The men from Halberd Creek." Silence. The kind that creeps into bones. Etta knelt beside him, pressing a cloth to his side. How many? She asked. 6, maybe more. They had dogs. Said we ain't allowed here. Said the canyon belongs to the rails now. He looked at her then, really looked, and his lip quivered. They laughed when I ran. Said next time they'd take us all. The stew bubbled. A log cracked in the fire. Etta's hands stilled. She stood, slow, tall, calm. Her breath fogged the air like smoke before a storm. She turned to the treehouse shadows, her voice low but clear. Then we'll make sure there ain't a next time. Etta dropped to her knees, fingers clawing into the dirt. The box came up in splinters, the lock already rusted through. She opened it slow, like she expected ghosts to rise out. A revolver, Navy Colt, blued steel faded to gray. She checked the chamber. Empty, oiled, waiting. Next, a yellowed letter, the corner singed, bearing the faded seal of the Union Army. The ink bled in spots, but the words still breathed. Field Commendation, Etta Grace Holloway, Siege of Vicksburg. She didn't read the rest. At the bottom of the box, wrapped in cloth, lay a ring. Simple brass, not her husband's. This one had belonged to Nathaniel, the man she'd bled beside in the field hospital. Shot in the lung, never made it home. Hung in Georgia for loving a white woman. Etta closed the lid. The wind pulled at her coat as she stood. The children had gathered by the fire. Tolliver sat with his legs splinted, carving a slingshot from bone. Others were sharpening axe heads, fixing netting, melting glass into jagged traps. They watched her, silent, wide-eyed. She unwrapped the Colt and spun the cylinder. If you can't shoot, she said, you can run. If you can't run, you can cut. If you can't cut, she looked at them, voice flat. Then stand where you fall and make the bastards remember you. No one answered. They didn't need to. That night, Etta poured bullets from melted spoons. Silver glinted as she shaped them. The girl with the freckles laid them on a stone to cool. Each round caught firelight like it had a soul. Axes were planted in the ground, points up, snare wires strung between the trees. Smoke pots filled with pine resin. Etta strapped on the old cavalry belt. Her hair was pinned tight. Her coat, black, thick, frayed at the cuffs, flared as she moved through the camp, checking every trap, every hiding place, every child's face. The youngest, a boy no taller than her knee, tugged her coat. What if they come with fire? She knelt, met his eyes. Then we'll give him ashes. He nodded once and vanished back into the trees. Just before dawn, the woods held its breath. No birds, no wind, only stillness. Etta stood at the clearing's edge, pistol holstered at her hip, hand resting light against the grip. Behind her, the children crouched in silence, hidden beneath burlap and shadow. She looked forward, past the mist, to where the path narrowed between the rocks. They'll ride in loud, she whispered, but they won't ride out. The Colt gleamed at her side, and the widow waited. The first man's head snapped back before he heard the shot. The Colt smoked in Etta's hand, still raised. The second rider screamed, veered his horse into a snare. The wire caught his throat, flipped him backward into the mud. Dead before the dust settled. Screams erupted. 6 riders charged into the canyon's throat, guns drawn, mouths wide with laughter just seconds before. Now that laughter turned to panic. A pine sapling snapped. A log trap dropped from above. It crushed 2 horses and pinned a man screaming beneath splinters and saddle leather. His pistol went skittering into the moss. Another rider fired wild into the trees. The children didn't scream. They moved like smoke, darting between roots, dropping stones from high branches, slinging sharpened nails from slingshots. A dog howled, caught in a spike pit hidden beneath pine boughs. The 4th man wheeled to flee. Etta stepped from behind a cedar and shot him square through the chest. He spun, crumpled. Only one remained now. The leader, face red with fury, rifle trembling as he backed toward the path. "You crazy old witch," he shouted. "They're just brats. You'll die for this." Etta walked forward, slow and steady, Colt lowered but ready. "They ain't yours to take," she said. He raised a rifle. Too slow. Her second shot took him in the thigh. He screamed, dropped to his knees. "Please," he begged, hands out, blood pouring through his fingers. "I didn't mean, I was just." Etta stared at him, eyes pale, voice quiet. "My womb was empty," she said, "but I am mother to those who had none." He sobbed, reached for the pistol on his belt. She put the third shot between his eyes. Silence. The kind that doesn't fade, it settles. Heavy, permanent. Smoke curled around the clearing like breath from the trees. The children emerged, slowly, weapons lowered. Tolliver limped forward, eyes wide. Etta turned. "Get the bodies clear. Burn what you have to. Bury what you don't." No one asked questions. They obeyed. By sunset, the path was scrubbed clean. By moonrise, the canyon was quiet again. They say she never left those woods. Say she still walks among the trees when the wind changes. That bad men who ride too deep into the pine vanish without a sound. That the orphans of the frontier found not just a leader, but a legend. And if you're ever out near Halberd Creek, just past the old burnt pine, you might still hear it. The crack of a colt, a whisper in the leaves, and the ghost of a woman who once had nothing, until she gave everything.